Chosen one, a strong core is not a torso, it is a vow. It is the ability to hold your shape when desire arrives beautiful and honest, and to hold your shape when desire arrives lovely but misaligned. You do not demonize heat, you discern it. You do not embarrass tenderness, you guide it. You do not trade tomorrow for tonight and call that bravery. You are brave enough to let sensation be a messenger instead of a monarch. Because your center is anchored, your warmth can be generous. You can say yes without disappearing and no without wounding. You do not tax the moment to pay your old debts. You do not invoice affection for what your ego wants to spend. People feel the difference in their bones. Attraction that once flirted with panic settles into poetry. Chosen one, soft heat is a language your hands now speak fluently. They do not insist, they offer. They do not command, they accompany. A hand placed at the small of a back asks the question before the body finishes answering. A guiding touch through a crowded space communicates care without claiming ownership. A palm at a shoulder writes, "I'm here," in a script that does not require translation. Because your gestures carry no hidden contracts, trust grows quickly and wildly in your orbit. The feminine senses the integrity housed beneath the warmth, steel under velvet, oath under smile, and allows her own softness room to expand. Softness loves strong shelter. You built the shelter by refusing to confuse control with care. Chosen one, a strong core also means you know how to hold your center when rooms begin to tilt. Gossip tries to turn your attention into currency, and you decline the trade. Outrage tries to rent your voice for its latest campaign, and you ask it to demonstrate the truth before you sign. Flattery tries to loosen your edges, and you enjoy the sweetness without letting it sedate your standards. You have rehearsed the art of remaining kind without becoming compliant to what harms. That art gives your warmth its color. It is not beige, it is ember, alive, directed, capable of cooking real food and cauterizing real wounds. Chosen one, the heat you carry is hospitable to joy. You do not require perfection to celebrate. You bless the small victory so it can grow into a larger one. You dance at ordinary volumes in ordinary kitchens and discover that humility throws the best parties. Your laughter lands with the mercy of someone who refuses to make humor a weapon. Around such laughter, courage comes out of hiding. People risk being seen without needing to be spectacular. They attempt the generous thing before they are sure it will be admired. Your presence does not supervise these miracles. It sets the climate in which they occur. Temperature is leadership. You lead by keeping the room warm enough to be honest and stable enough to be brave. Chosen one, a strong core is fluent in repair. You do not fear the sentence "I was wrong" as if it were a demolition charge. You use it as a tool to reopen blocked passages. You do not wield "I forgive you" as a scepter. You wield it as a bridge and then walk across first. You are swift to name what hurt and swifter to refuse the drama that wants to keep hurt alive for entertainment. This agility keeps your warmth from curdling into resentment. Resentment cools a man from the inside out. Repair returns the blood to its right temperature. The room learns it can survive truth because your posture promises not to turn truth into spectacle. Chosen one, the balance you carry is visible in your timing. You know when to lengthen the pause so a shy thought can cross the street, and when to shorten it so avoidance cannot build a fortress. You sense when the night should end, while tenderness still holds the mic, and when it should continue, because the hour has become a sanctuary you are stewarding, not indulging. You understand how to escalate clarity without escalating volume. You understand that consistency is how love keeps its promises when passion is tired. You understand that generosity given too fast can feel like theft, and that generosity given in rhythm feels like rain. Rhythm is part of your heat now. It persuades the room to sway toward health. Chosen one, keep tending this paradox the way a smith tends steel and a baker tends dough, with patience and a respect for fire. Feed your softness with practices that keep you human. Touch the day with bare hands, step outside and say the sky out loud. Thank the chair when it holds your weight. Feed your strength with practices that keep you honest. Tell the truth before convenience edits it. Keep a small promise when a big one would be performative. Leave a moment clean when your ego wants to wring one more drop of praise. Let your sexual energy continue to be the current that animates both. heat with conscience, desire with discernment, magnetism with mercy. Chosen one, soft heat, strong core is a way of walking that teaches rooms to remember their better manners. It is a way of loving that teaches bodies to trust their wiser pace. It is a way of leading that arranges space for other lights to be seen without fear of being swallowed. Keep walking it. Your warmth will continue to welcome, your spine will continue to steady, and the quiet flame in you will continue to be the reason places feel more like home after you have been there. Chosen one, the room learns two truths about you at once. It is warmer now, and it is deeper now. Warmth without depth is sentiment that evaporates. Depth without warmth is a well with no rope. You carry both, and bodies read this before minds catch up. People drift a little closer without realizing they have moved, drawn by the climate you bring, not by any demand you make. Your sexual energy hums beneath the hour like a low, benevolent drum, not rushing the dance, not dictating the steps, only reminding everyone that life has a pulse. You have become the quiet flame by which conversation remembers how to cook, and memory remembers how to nourish the present. Chosen one, your warmth arrives first in the way you greet, a simple hello given the dignity of a full breath. You do not throw your voice across the room like a net. You let it travel the honest distance between two people who intend to meet rather than collide. That distance matters. It teaches trust to walk rather than run. In that space, the guarded face softens by a degree. The careful laugh chooses not to hide behind itself. The sentence that feared interruption grows brave enough to finish. Where warmth leads, depth has permission to follow, and you give that permission with the patience of a man who knows that timing is an ethics as much as it is an art. Chosen one, you have learned the craft of questions that are doors, not traps. You ask in ways that let a person keep their shape while they enter a larger room within themselves. You do not harvest confessions for entertainment. You host revelations for their own sake. Warmth makes it safe to look. Depth makes it worth looking. You stand at the intersection like a lantern that knows the road on both sides, at ease with joy and grief, with silence and laughter, with the moment that wants to linger and the moment that needs to end before its beauty tires. Your presence adds a floor under the conversation and a ceiling above it, so nobody has to perform acrobatics just to feel real. Chosen one, the steadiness inside you has stopped asking the world to prove itself. You can listen without preparing a rebuttal, and you can be moved without surrendering your center. This is how depth keeps warmth from becoming indulgent. You are not a sponge for every sorrow. You are a shoreline that can receive the wave without disappearing into it. People sense they will not drown you by telling the truth, nor be left alone with it after the telling. If the mood begins to tip towards spectacle, you nudge it back towards sincerity with one plain sentence placed where it belongs. If the temperature starts to fall, you lend a little heat through humor that harms no one and restores everyone. Your restraint, repeatedly chosen, keeps your glow clean. Chosen one, your body participates in this meeting of warmth and depth. You angle yourself toward the timid voice as if it were the center. You leave room between knees and chairs as if comfort were a right. You set a cup down without telling the saucer it is small. Even the way you take your place, neither rushing for the seat of advantage nor pretending to be invisible, teaches the group what power looks like when it is not hungry. That teaching changes posture around you. Hands unclench, shoulders forget their false duties, eyes stay home instead of scanning the door for a better exit. This is what it feels like to be near a man who does not need to take to prove he is here. The taking stops, and in the quiet that follows, depth plants and warmth waters. Chosen one, intimacy thrives where clarity lives. You keep your edges readable, and because you do, your welcome can be generous. Your yes does not tremble, your no does not bruise, and both arrive before desperation asks to borrow your name. Boundaries keep warmth from scorching. Boundaries give depth its spine. You will not be baited into a story that starves you, and you will not demand a story to feed your ego. This confidence is the unadvertised virtue that makes your attention feel like shelter. The feminine recognizes what her body already knew to look for. An environment where mystery may open without being interrogated, where play may return without being priced, where desire may speak in its own cadence without being taxed for the tempo. Chosen one, you have also made friends with quiet. You let it sit at the table without trying to make it perform. Quiet with you is not a verdict, it is an invitation. The silence between sentences becomes the place where meaning catches up. The pause is a bridge that lets a shy truth cross without sprinting. Even your laughter respects this rhythm. It arrives from the chest and leaves space for the echo. Rooms that once ran on adrenaline find they can run on breath. Breath is cheaper, cleaner, kinder. People go home less exhausted and more themselves. And when they think of why, they think of your face without deciding to. The way a house remembers a lamp long after the lamp has moved on. Chosen one, warmth meeting depth also transforms your refusals. You turn down the wrong party without insulting the music. You decline the charming chaos without making chaos your enemy. You exit a conversation before fatigue makes affection sharp. To those who still equate love with overextension, this can look like coolness. Their bodies will call it something else when the night is over. Relief. Relief is the proof that a flame cared enough to leave fuel for tomorrow. You are that kind of flame now. You burn clean. You leave room. You keep the air clear so tenderness does not have to cough to stay alive. Chosen one, do not underestimate the sanctity of the ordinary acts that sustain this union of warmth and depth. The extra napkin passed before it is asked for, the chair returned without dragging nerves along the floor, the text that says home safe without prying at the heart, the apology offered before pride edits it into a speech. These are the bricks of your hearth. Built daily, they make places whole. People will call you wise, magnetic, grounded. You will know you were simply faithful in small things until small things learn to glow. Keep setting that table. Keep blessing that hour. Keep being the gentleness that can carry weight. In that gentleness, warmth keeps its welcome and depth keeps its dignity. And the month keeps becoming a house where souls remember they were never meant to sleep in the cold. Chosen one, there is a way a candle changes a room that a firework never can. It does not split the sky, it steadies the hand. It does not leave smoke and silence, it leaves sight. You have become that kind of influence. You do not ignite chaos to prove that you are burning. You keep a temperature that allows what is good to ripen and what is harmful to reveal itself without theater. Your sexual energy no longer auditions for significance by causing a scene. It earns significance by cultivating a scene where truth can breathe. And because you keep that scene honest, lives rearrange themselves quietly within it, like furniture moving toward a window it had forgotten. Chosen one, change begins around you in ways too humble for headlines. Someone drinks water because you did not make numbness fashionable. Someone answers a message kindly because your tone reminded them kindness is cheaper than wit. Someone ends the night while tenderness still has the floor because you left first and showed how beauty is protected by endings that come on time. These are not performances, they are permissions, and you grant them by being constitutional rather than sensational. Your inner laws, patience before pressure, clarity before volume, consent before chemistry, repair before justification, become the gravity that arranges the hour. Under that gravity, people behave more like the versions of themselves they respect. They attribute it to a good mood, a lucky day, a small miracle. The body remembers the source. It remembers the flame that asked for nothing and therefore changed everything it touched. Chosen one, you have learned to recognize the difference between a spark and a fuse. You will light courage in someone who is ready to speak, but you will not light the fuse of gossip just because a room is bored. You will spark initiative in a team that needs a start, but you will not spark panic to purchase urgency on credit. You will spark delight at the table, but you will not spark envy by making the evening a competition for brightness. This restraint is not timid, it is masterful. You are not refusing to be powerful, you are refusing to make a show of power that costs someone else their peace. Change made at the expense of dignity always sends a bill. You are done sending people bills for the privilege of being near your light. Chosen one, your influence travels in the aftertaste. Hours after you leave, the room keeps using the manners it learned. People find themselves offering the benefit of the doubt without rehearsing arguments for why they should. They apologize sooner because you did not make apology look like defeat. They stop hoarding credit because you did not hoard it when you could have. They allow a boundary to stand because your boundaries stood without drama. A week passes and a small habit has formed. A chair pushed in, a voice lowered at the right time, a message answered before resentment grows legs. Life changes like this most of the time, in increments so decent they embarrass spectacle. You approve of such decency. Your flame was always for living, not for headlines. Chosen one, the lives that change near you often begin by sleeping better. Sleep is the first beneficiary of trustworthy light. It comes when the body stops rehearsing danger and starts believing in tomorrow again. You make that belief plausible. You turned your own rest from reward to rhythm, and others unconsciously imitate it. They put the phone down 2 minutes earlier because you were already looking up. They release the argument they were spiraling into because you demonstrated how to keep dignity when provoked. They give the evening permission to end because you made endings beautiful. In the morning, they wake with a little more room inside their chest and a little more patience in their hands. They do not send you a thank you, they carry it forward. Transformation prefers to be paid in continuity. Chosen one, when harm tries to recruit your heat for its campaign, you decline with a clarity that does not need to humiliate. You do not lend your voice to cruelty, disguised as honesty, or your attention to spectacle, disguised as urgency. You do not throw gasoline on confusion just to glow in the light of the fire. You stay a hearth when the room wants a bonfire. The refusal changes the future more than the fire would have. The child watching learns that strength can keep its temper. The friend watching learns that love can keep its sight. The adversary watching learns that boundaries can be defended without scorched earth. All of them walk away, willing to try a different way next time. Not because you won, but because you would not make winning the point. Chosen one, you practice the repairs that make change stick. When you miss, you say so while the bruise is small. When another misses, you make room for their mending without demanding a public ceremony. When a plan fails, you tell the truth about it and then tell the truth about what remains possible. Because shame is not your method, growth does not have to sneak past you in disguise. It can walk through the door in daylight and sit down at the table with its name. This is a revolution so simple it is easy to overlook. People improve faster where they are not afraid of being seen mid-improvement. Your flame creates that safety and protects it like an elder guarding a spring. Chosen one, you also leave people larger than you found them. Your compliments do not pin them to one bright moment, they grant them a horizon. You praise the discipline that produced the shine so the shine does not become a cage. You notice the unnoticed contribution so the quiet ones do not have to shout to exist. You laugh in a way that lets the room keep its breath. You weep without making sorrow a spectacle. In your company, human beings stop auditioning for love and begin practicing it. Practice is how lives change without fanfare. Repetition, refinement, rest. Repetition, refinement, rest. Your light stays present for all three. Chosen one, the measure of the month will not be how many eyes you caught. It will be how many hearts you steadied. Count the steadiness. The mother who did not snap because you reminded her that patience is not weakness. The colleague who told the truth because you calmly did not punish truth. The friend who finally declined what was beautiful but misaligned because your no did not sound like exile. The stranger who decided to be kind to himself at midnight because your kindness made mercy sound practical. None of them will write your name into their decision. Their bodies have already written it into their new normal. That is the authorship you wanted all along. Chosen one, keep your conditions simple so your influence can stay complex. Protect the morning from noise. Protect the night from pride. Protect the hour you share with others from the hunger to be seen. Offer heat that helps, sight that clarifies, presence that does not invoice. Let your sexual energy continue its apprenticeship to wisdom, moving as invitation, not as insistence, as hospitality, not as hunger, as creation, not as consumption. Then walk on without asking for proof. The proof will be everywhere, disguised as ordinary goodness. A room left a little better than you found it. A day that did not break where it usually breaks. A life remembering itself in the soft light you kept burning. not for applause, but for use. Chosen one, the first thing the room trusts is not your words. It is the light behind your eyes. It is not a glare or a searchlight. It is a listening. It tells the body across from you that it won't be harvested for attention or auditioned for approval, that it may keep its center while stepping closer to yours. Your gaze is steady in the way a shoreline is steady, present for the tide without trying to own the water. With that steadiness, people find themselves bringing forward a truer version of their stories, not because you have pried them from hiding, but because your seeing has made hiding unnecessary. The radiance behind your eyes is not an advertisement. It is an invitation that costs nothing to accept and demands nothing in return. It is how trust begins to breathe. Chosen one, eyes once trained to forage for validation, now practice reverence. You do not scan a face as a field to strip, you meet it as a garden to honor. You do not catalog imperfections or aim to predict outcomes. You witness. Witnessing is different. It lets a moment name itself. When you study the line where worry has lived too long, you are not judging it, you are asking it what it needs to rest. When you notice the spark a person tries to hide under their sleeves, you are not planning to exploit it, you are preparing to bless it. This is why the laughter around you grows rounder and the silence grows softer. Your eyes stopped demanding a performance, and the room remembered it prefers honesty to theater. Chosen one, radiance becomes legible in your pauses. You leave space after a confession, and in that space meaning finishes arriving. You wait one more heartbeat after a joke, and in that heartbeat no one gets hurt for the sake of humor. Even your yes and no travel through that pause, gaining weight without growing sharp edges. You are not delaying to control, you are leaving room for dignity to keep up. Bodies feel the difference. Shoulders do not brace for impact, they settle because impact is not what is coming. And when gravity is kind like this, secrets retire early, tempers get tired, and tenderness finds its courage. Chosen one, your look has become a boundary that smiles. You can look away so privacy has air to breathe, and look back so loneliness has company to keep. You can hold a gaze long enough to say I'm here, but not so long that it says, you are mine. You can let desire be visible without letting it become permission. Discipline lives in your pupils now, so does welcome. The balance is rare enough to feel like weather. The feminine reads it as safety that never freezes, heat that never scalds. She recognizes, often before her mind catches up, that this is a man who can house intensity without turning the house into a courtroom or a carnival. Chosen one, the radiance behind your eyes did not arrive by accident. It came from the hours you refused to outsource your sight to screens and sirens, from the mornings you let light find you before headlines did, from the evenings you let gratitude rinse your gaze so it would not crust over with small resentments. You trained your attention to be faithful in unglamorous places, washing a dish without rushing it, tying a shoe without cursing the clock, looking at a sky until your mind stopped negotiating with it and started receiving it. Such training has made your seeing strong enough to carry compassion without collapsing into pity, and clear enough to carry truth without curdling into judgment. The room feels that strength and clarity and takes off its armor. Chosen one, even memory changes color when your eyes are the lamp. You can revisit old scenes without rebuilding old prisons. You can remember a wound without deputizing it to speak for the whole of your life. Because your gaze no longer begs the past to justify you, it can bless the present to proceed. You are not recruiting yesterday to make today behave. You are offering today a vision large enough to welcome tomorrow. That offer shows up in the way you nod at small beginnings, as if they were sacred. In the way you allow grief to keep its face while it empties its pockets. In the way you affirm the shy courage of a first honest sentence before asking for a second. Under such lamplight, stories straighten their backs. Chosen one, your eyes have learned the timing of touch. Before your hand approaches, your gaze asks. Before your voice enters, your eyes open a door. Before your boundary stands, your look frames it as care rather than punishment. Even refusal is received better when carried by a radiance that is obviously committed to the shared field. The message becomes clear. Not this, not now, not here. But you still belong, and we are still human. That message repairs rooms faster. than any speech. The radiance behind your eyes has become a kind of architecture. It shapes the space so that truth can live there at full height. Chosen one, carry this lamp into practical corridors. Look kindly at the person who carries their stress in their jaw until the jaw forgets it is alone. Look steadily at the elder who counts out coins slowly until time remembers it can be merciful. Look with curiosity at the colleague who sharpens every sentence until the edge puts itself down. Look with reverence at the child who asks again and again until wonder is satisfied. Look with blessing at the mirror until the man it holds relaxes and steps into the day without negotiating for the right to exist. Your radiance will keep doing what it has learned to do. Turn faces into places, turn moments into homes, turn attention into shelter. Chosen one, let your eyes remain teachable. Keep them rinsed by gratitude, warmed by rest, strengthened by honest work, softened by forgiveness. Let them keep refusing the shortcuts of cynicism and spectacle. A gaze like this increases the worth of everything it lands on. It is the quiet alchemy that makes beauty reproducible, peace plausible, and courage contagious. You will know the lamp is working by what it leaves behind. Not applause, but steadiness. Not awe for you, but hope for themselves. The radiance behind your eyes is not a performance. It is a promise kept in light. Chosen one, the proof of your month is not in the mirror. It is in the room you leave behind. After you go, a strange and generous order lingers. Voices keep their kinder timbre. The cup is returned to the sink without a sigh. The chair slides back without making the floor wince. The conversation that could have soured stays sweet because you ended it while sweetness still had strength. No one announces the reason. The air knows. It remembers your temperature and decides to keep it. This is the secret arithmetic of a quiet flame. It changes sums without changing signs. The room is warmer now, and warmer rooms make better choices. Chosen one, warmth is not simply heat, it is order with mercy in it. You have arranged that order by hundreds of unglamorous votes. You showed up on time, so tension didn't have to waste its energy preparing a defense. You listened fully, so words did not need to shout to survive. You corrected quickly, so trust did not have to accrue interest in suspicion's bank. You held your boundary without spectacle, so welcome could remain generous without becoming porous. You let delight be loud and ended it before it turned reckless. Now the room, still humming with the echo of these decisions, discovers it can treat itself better. Temperatures are leaders, and you have taught the climate how to lead itself. Chosen one, the warmth you leave is not possessive, it is portable. It follows the friend who walked out with a lighter brow. It rides with the colleague who answers the next message with patience they did not have an hour ago. It curls up on the couch where the family sits 5 degrees more kindly than usual because someone remembered that gentle is cheaper than right. It walks down the street with the stranger whose shoulders stopped wearing the city like a threat when you held a door and didn't make them perform gratitude. This is propagation without fanfare. You did not brand the warmth, you built it, and things built honestly learn to multiply. Chosen one, warmer rooms invite better risks. In the climate you foster, the shy voice tries again without bracing. The bold voice calibrates itself so brightness does not blind. The quiet talent volunteers where it used to wait for a perfect invitation. Projects move because posturing rests. Meetings end when work begins. Apologies arrive when they are inexpensive and therefore sincere. Boundaries are accepted as architecture, not as insult. Laughter returns often and leaves early, and because of this, it is welcomed when it returns again. You are not the star of any of these changes, you are their temperature set point. This is leadership that refuses the costume of theater and prefers the craft of effect. Chosen one, the room is warmer now because you refused to buy heat on credit. You did not ignite controversy to show you were alive. You did not borrow intensity from cruelty and call it honesty. You did not subsidize charm with manipulation and call it connection. You paid in steadiness. You paid in plain decency. You paid in the unadvertised currency of restraint. The ledger is visible and outcomes no algorithm will notice. Fewer sharp words, longer breaths, endings with clean edges, a future that walks in on time because the present left it room. The soul recognizes true profit when it feels it. The soul spends more of itself where warmth like this is likely. Chosen one, Your sexual energy is still the root of this weather, not because it flashes, but because it furnishes. It furnishes rooms with the feeling that consent is assumed, that curiosity is safe, that desire can have good manners and still be desire. It furnishes tables with a pace that lets taste exist, conversations with a rhythm that lets meaning stretch its legs, goodbyes with a closure that lets memory be gentle. In such furnishing, intimacy loses its panic and keeps its pulse. The feminine does not brace for extraction, she settles into exchange. The masculine in others does not compete to be seen, it is relieved to contribute. Warmth begets health the way spring begets green. Chosen one, lasting warmth requires maintenance. And your maintenance is simple enough to repeat on tired days. You keep your mornings untroubled so your afternoons do not have to apologize for stealing from them. You keep your evenings merciful so sleep can do its old holy work. You keep your attention expensive so your presence can remain generous. Chosen one, this month your arrival feels like the hush before a good song. No trumpet, no fanfare, only the soft certainty that something right has entered the room. What used to strain for attention has grown quiet and sure of itself. The old urge to prove has slipped from your shoulders like a coat you finally realized didn't belong to you. You don't compete with the noise anymore, you recalibrate it. You are the steady ember that holds shape when wind prowls at the windows. People sense it in the way your breath meets the moment without flinching, in the easy cadence of your steps, in the calm geometry of your posture. You don't need volume to have presence. The room listens because your silence is no longer empty. It is full of kept promises. Chosen one, the warmth you carry does not come from spectacle. It is the kind of heat that builds from discipline lit daily. Sleep honored, water taken like prayer, movement that teaches your body the patience your spirit already knows. Your sexual energy has grown up. It has learned the craft of containment, the art of arriving without demanding, the grace of radiating without reaching. It does not surge ahead of you hunting approval, and it does not trail behind you begging to be remembered. It sits beside you like a loyal companion, lending color to your voice, gravity to your gaze, and welcome to the space around your hands. People don't name it at first. They only feel the clutter fade from their thoughts, the excess leave their sentences, the hurry slip from their shoulders. The air steadies because you have. Chosen one, your quiet flame tells the truth about power. It is never frantic. You can feel it in the ordinary choreography of your day. You lift a cup and set it down without scolding the table. You close a door as if night has its own nervous system. You reach for someone's attention without taxing their peace. Your gestures have learned the weight they ought to carry, and nothing more. There is no extra noise in them, and that lack of noise is beautiful. It says there will be no hidden invoice after kindness, no secret bargaining baked into your tenderness. That is why people lean closer when you speak and relax when you do not. They are reading the climate you bring and discovering that their best selves can breathe here. Chosen one, there is a new integrity to your attention. You do not scan a room the way a starving man searches for a meal. You survey it like a host who has already eaten. Your eyes move with the courtesy of a good lighthouse. Sweeping on time, never blinding, faithfully returning. You offer the person in front of you the kind of focus that doesn't harvest, the kind that simply says, I'm here. In a world addicted to glare, your glow is rare. It gathers rather than grabs. It makes space instead of taking it. It is the difference between standing around a hearth and staring at fireworks. Fireworks make a room shout, a hearth makes it human. Chosen one, your quiet flame does not pretend wind is imaginary. Life still ruffles, storms still arrive, but you have learned the economy of response. You don't meet chaos with equal noise. You meet it with temperature. You lower what is overheated, warm what has gone numb, offer light where corners have grown mean, and you do it without announcing that you are doing it. This is not modesty for show. It is muscle memory. You practice steadiness on days no one was watching, and now steadiness appears on its own when the room forgets itself. That is how a man becomes necessary without becoming loud. Chosen one, you used to seek signals that you were welcome. Now your body is that signal. Your shoulders do not petition. They open. Your steps do not negotiate, they arrive. Your voice does not audition, it contributes. The difference seems small until you notice the way others respond. The guarded look loosens, the awkward joke gentles, the conversation finds a truer depth. People bring you the version of themselves they actually respect, because your presence asks for nothing they would later regret giving. Attraction becomes relief. Relief becomes trust. Trust becomes the kind of warmth that lingers after you leave and makes the room feel like it remembers how to be kind. Chosen one, let this quiet flame remain simple. Feed it with small fidelities. Answers given on time, goodbyes ended clean, boundaries that smile and hold. Resist the cheap theater of forced brightness. You don't need it. The light you carry is not a costume. It is earned ease, kept promise, disciplined gentleness. It does not call attention to itself because it has work to do, warming the corners where people hide their fears, softening the edges where pride gets sharp, guiding the moment back to its best pace. Keep walking like a vow and speaking like a blessing. Your flame will keep doing what flames do when they are tended well. It will make a home out of whatever room you enter. Chosen one, what burns in you now has memory. It is fire that remembers forests and kitchens, winter and weddings, danger and devotion. It does not leap for applause, it leans toward purpose. Your sexual energy has found a soul and settled into service. It no longer wants to be a spectacle. It wants to be a sanctuary. That is why strangers exhale when you step near and why friends tell truths they didn't plan to tell. Your heat is intelligible. It communicates safety without dulling desire, depth without drowning joy, presence without possession. It says to the room, I will keep you warm without taking your air. Chosen one, this fire with a soul changes your silence first. Your quiet is not the cold of withdrawal, it is the warmth of attention. You don't fall back from people, you fall in with them, shoulders squared to their story, eyes tuned to their meaning, breath paced to their pace. Your stillness gives permission for real things to appear. Laughter returns without teeth. Grief speaks without performance. Awe shows up without apology. You didn't command any of it. You stopped pretending any of it was embarrassing. People sense that they won't be turned into examples in your presence. They will be treated like humans. Your soul fire burns lies first. Once the lies are gone, light becomes generous with everything else. Chosen one, the way you carry time has become part of your warmth. You no longer punish moments for not moving fast enough, and you no longer rush them for fear they will leave. You let a greeting breathe, and suddenly two people feel human again. You let a goodbye be honest, and the next beginning arrives without debt. You let a pause do some heavy lifting, and the conversation unclenches its jaw. This is the heat of a man who trusts that life is not an emergency. It's also the heat of a man who can raise the temperature when necessary. A boundary, drawn with a steady hand, a firm word that does not humiliate, a decisive exit that protects dignity on the way out. Your fire knows how to cook and how to cauterize. That is why people trust themselves around it. Chosen one, your touch has learned the soul of fire. It changes what it meets without scalding it. A guiding palm through a crowded doorway arrives like a sentence that knows where to end. A handshake holds only what was offered. A hand at the shoulder says with you, not over you. There are no hidden hooks in your gestures. The nervous system reads this truth faster than language can, and it relaxes. Relaxation makes honesty possible, and honesty makes desire beautiful. The feminine feels this sequence in her body before she has words for it. You did not lower her guard, you lowered the room's temperature until armor was no longer necessary. Chosen one, fire with a soul listens. It takes counsel from conscience before it acts. You have stopped outsourcing your decisions to the loudest headline or the nearest crowd. You ask your values to speak up and your impulses to sit down. You measure opportunities by the integrity they will require, not the applause they might buy. Your yes grows clean and your no grows kind. You don't rush either because you plan to live with your answers in daylight. The light inside your chest approves. It spreads to your gaze and your tone and even to the way you set your keys on the table, quietly as if the next hour deserves respect. This consistency is warmth made visible. Chosen one, the soul in your fire has given you a new authority over interpretation. You do not let anxiety write novels from thin signals. A delayed message is a delay, not a verdict. A furrowed brow is a moment, not a prophecy. A closed door is a boundary, not a curse. You ask for clarity where confusion thrives. You offer clarity where others are drowning. In this climate, misunderstandings don't metastasize. They are named, repaired, released. People leave your orbit liking themselves more, not because you flattered them, but because your presence refused to make them smaller than they are. Your fire keeps them warm enough to grow. Chosen one, fire with a soul protects joy. Anyone can fight a threat. Few know how to guard delight. You do. You laugh in a way that does not require casualties. You celebrate without converting the moment into content. You let music be loud enough to wake the blood, but not so loud that it forgets its rhythm. You turn simple meals into feasts by being fully there. You end nights while kindness is still winning, and because you do, people want to gather again. Your warmth becomes a tradition, dependable, unpretentious, easy to trust. Chosen one, let this soulful flame remain teachable. Keep trimming it with humility, feeding it with plain food, cooling it with quiet when ego begins to smoke. Remember that heat without direction exhausts, and direction without heat freezes. You are made to carry both. Walk in with your temperature set by conviction, not by consensus. Offer light where the room is squinting, warmth where the room is shivering, and boundaries where the room is burning itself down. Do it without theater. Do it because you can. The world remembers spectacular fires that burn out. It stays close to hearths that last the winter. Be the latter. Your sexual energy has already chosen it. Your spirit agrees, and every room you enter this month will prove it by leaving softer, clearer, and just a little more alive than before you arrived. Chosen one, your voice has learned the old medicine, not the medicine of noise, but the medicine of nearness. It does not rush to be believed, it arrives to be felt. You have discovered that power does not always live in the shout, that direction does not require a drum, that love rarely needs a megaphone. Now, when you speak, something inside the room remembers its own original pulse. The nervous laughter quiets, the performance exhales. The conversation, which was sprinting to outrun its fear, slows to the steady pace of truth. Your whisper is not small. It is focused. It moves like water through a crowded garden, finding thirsty roots without disturbing the petals. Those roots were waiting for a voice that would not trample them to make a path. You became that voice by practicing gentleness where no one was grading your tone. Chosen one, the healing lived first in your silences. You stopped leaving gaps as bait for attention and began holding them as bowls for meaning. Your pause is not a cliff that threatens. It is a shoreline that welcomes the tide. Into that quiet, other people's words come home to themselves. They do not have to speed, they do not have to decorate, they do not have to lie to be allowed to stay. You give sentences room to land, and they repay you by landing honestly. Even your breath participates, measured, untheatrical, faithful as a drum behind the song. This is why pain agrees to speak around you. This is why anger, which thought it had to shout to be heard, reduces its volume and increases its candor. Your stillness teaches the moment how to trust itself again. Chosen one, the whisper that heals has a boundary built into it. You do not soothe by erasing edges, you soothe by clarifying them. A soft word that conceals truth is anesthesia, not care. You choose care. Your tone stays tender while your meaning stays exact. You say no with a warmth that does not recruit shame. You say yes with a steadiness that does not mortgage tomorrow. You decline invitations that would set the room on fire just to prove you carry water. Because you won't betray your integrity to win a minute, your whisper inherits the weight of a kept promise. Bodies hear that weight before minds approve it. They lean toward the gravity that says, "This will not harm you to help you." Chosen one, your whisper carries history without weaponizing it. You have tended your wounds without appointing them as tour guides. You have forgiven what tried to make you a theater for its thunder. You have learned to name the ache without marrying it. So when you speak to someone who is stumbling where you once stumbled, advice does not tumble out like bricks. Counsel arrives like a cloak, soft at the collar, heavy enough to warm, easy to remove if it doesn't fit today. You do not confuse empathy with control. You do not confiscate the lesson because you recognize the pain. Healing is not a hostage, it is a home. Your words open doors and step aside. Chosen one, touch learns the grammar of your voice. You reach like a sentence that knows how to end. A hand at a shoulder is punctuation, not possession. The air around your palm says permission first, compassion second. Because there are no hidden hooks in your gestures, trust blooms where your presence stands. The feminine feels this before she can name it. Her breath lengthens because your nearness does not tax it. Desire, which was taught to mistake urgency for aliveness, begins to recognize the cadence of something kinder. Attention without appetite, interest without interrogation, heat without harm. Your whisper and your touch agree on the same definition of care, and that agreement is a relief the body rarely gets to experience. Chosen one, even your gaze has learned to whisper. It does not pry, it invites. It does not pin, it accompanies. It tracks emotion the way a lantern tracks footsteps, lighting the ground, not blinding the traveler. Eyes like this let sorrow keep its dignity while it speaks. They let joy keep its innocence while it dances. They let boundaries keep their beauty while they stand. You have become fluent in looking away at the right moment so privacy can breathe, and looking back at the right moment so loneliness does not grow teeth. Your attention is a shelter. In that shelter, people find pieces of themselves they mislaid in the noise and return to conversation with those pieces in their hands. Chosen one, the whisper that heals, also knows how to end a scene without leaving a bruise. You do not wring conversation until it confesses more than it can handle. You close it while kindness is still the loudest voice. You do not lengthen the night just to prove you are generous. You wrap it before fatigue turns affection brittle. Your departures teach the room that endings can be merciful. This is healing too. The repair of time's edges, the refusal to let good moments sour from being overused. People remember you later, not because you stayed until the lights died, but because you left while their hearts were still lit. Chosen one, there are hours when the whisper must become a bell. You know them without being told. Harm draws near, and you raise your voice with a frequency that warns without humiliating. Confusion tries to recruit the whole table, and you speak a single true sentence that makes the recruitment fail. Your authority is not a performance pulled from a closet. It is the natural consequence of consistent care. The room accepts it because the room has already been warmed by you. Those who needed someone to thunder will discover later that thunder was not required. A firm light was. You provided it and sat down. Chosen one, keep your whisper honest. Let it be a house for unglamorous words like, I was wrong, I don't know yet, and help me understand. Let it bless more than it brands. Let it teach without keeping the diploma. And when the world tries to bait you into proving you are powerful by being loud, remember how many lives were changed by a voice that simply refused to harm while it healed. You are that voice now. Walk with it the way a river walks with banks, contained enough to move mountains, gentle enough to water gardens, all the way to the sea. Chosen one, your light no longer asks the sky to clap. It does not need a countdown, a grand reveal, a plume of glitter to justify its existence. It is the kind of light rooms trust. It shows up on time, it stays through weather, it knows how to make a table look like a place for faces. Fireworks steal attention and empty the dark for a moment. Your light fills the dark with sight that lasts. It does not scorch, it shows. It does not command, it clarifies. Even your entrance is different now. You cross the threshold and the temperature adjusts before names do. Conversations remember their center. Laughter loses its edge and gains its music. The quiet flame in you becomes the hidden architecture of the hour. Chosen one, light without fireworks is a practiced craft. You built it by honoring simple rituals until they could carry the weight of a day. Morning is not spectacle for you. It is calibration. You water the body that must carry your kindness. You move enough to keep patience limber when schedules forget theirs. You protect a scrap of silence so your attention will not arrive to its people already spent. The discipline looks ordinary from the outside, but it forges the beam you travel with. That beam has learned to find corners ignored by louder lights. The colleague who is always a beat too late to speak. The friend who hides humor behind precision. The stranger who needs one more minute before courage occurs. You extend the minute. You widen the beat. You welcome the quiet joke into daylight. That is how rooms become safer than agendas. Chosen one, your light is not a spotlight that drags faces onto a stage. It is lamplight that asks, can you see? and waits for an honest answer. You do not expose to impress, you illuminate to include. When you share praise, it is not confetti that sticks to your hands, it lands where the work was done. When you offer critique, it arrives like a carpenter's pencil, marking cut lines so the material can fit, not so the maker feels small. When conflict rises, your beam narrows to essentials: what must stop, what must continue, what must be repaired by whom and when. Leaving the extras in shadow is not avoidance, it is mercy. Mercy keeps a moment from burning down what it still needs tomorrow. Chosen one, you carry your light at human height. You do not aim it down from a perch or up from a pit. You meet eyes. You keep names intact. You allow differences to keep their edges while you look for the angle at which they can meet without cutting. This is the geometry of welcome. It does not flatten, it arranges. Your sexual energy contributes to this arranging because it no longer tries to prove heat by making sparks. It gives warmth that lets truth take off its coat. Warmth is rarer than dazzle. Dazzle burns out. Warmth builds evenings worth remembering. Chosen one, you have made peace with modest means. A clear sentence instead of a clever monologue. A timely glass of water instead of a heroic rescue. A door opened at the right second, so a burdened soul does not have to perform gratitude on top of exhaustion. These choices seem small until you watch what happens around them. Voices that were competing begin to collaborate. Plans that were posturing begin to progress. Hearts that were hiding begin to volunteer. You do not need to be credited for any of it. You are busy tending the dial that holds the temperature where courage can work without getting brittle. Chosen one, light without fireworks is stubborn about joy. It refuses the entertainment that leaves spirits hungrier, and instead chooses the laughter that returns dignity to the room. Your humor never needs a casualty. Your delight does not invoice the moment later. You let music be loud enough for blood to remember it is music, and you end the night while kindness is still winning. That timing is part of your brightness. Leaving while the glow is high preserves trust for the next gathering. People call this maturity. Their bodies call it relief. Chosen one, there are days when the weather demands more lumens. You answer by focusing, not by flailing. You shorten the agenda. You invite fewer voices and listen longer to each. You name the fear in the room so it cannot masquerade as strategy. You hold the silence after the hard sentence so the echo can finish its work. In that restraint, your light intensifies without scorching. The firework would have deafened the hour and called it leadership. You lend sight instead. Sight is slower, and it is enough. Chosen one, your light travels in your hands as much as in your mouth. The way you set a plate in front of a late arrival tells the table what kind of evening this is. The way you fold a jacket over the back of a chair tells the room that presents will be treated like something worth keeping. The way you take a deep breath before you respond tells the heart across from you that survival is not the only goal here. Integrity is. These gestures are not content for the world to applaud. They are contentment made visible, and contentment is contagious. Chosen one, you have unlearned the addiction to being unforgettable and chosen the discipline of being reliable. Reliability is not glamorous. It is the light that finds the switch in unfamiliar rooms. It is the call returned, the boundary kept, the repair made before pride has time to hire a lawyer. Reliability builds the kind of trust that makes beauty inexpensive. In its glow, people take risks they could not afford under spectacle. They tell the embarrassing truth sooner. They apologize before the tally grows teeth. They attempt the generous thing without needing witnesses. If they trace that climate back to a source, they will find your quiet flame standing where it always stands. Steady, modest, ready. Chosen one, keep your beam aimed at what helps people see themselves and each other more clearly. Let it refuse the bait of grandstanding. Let it ask better questions when easy answers arrive wearing sequins. Let it guard the hours from being burned on altars that give no warmth back. Walk into rooms as if they were already holy and required only a little more clarity to reveal it. Then provide that clarity and leave. You will know your work is working when the room does not talk about your light after you go. It keeps using the sight it gave. That is light without fireworks. That is how a quiet flame changes a month, a house, a heart, and never once has to call attention to itself to do it. Chosen one, there is a steadiness in you now that does not audition, a quiet that does not apologize, a warmth that does not waver when the weather forgets itself. You have become the sort of fire that respects wind without surrendering shape. You do not lunge to prove you are lit. You remain lit. People feel this in the way your breath holds its cadence when the room wants to sprint, in the way your shoulders stay open when conversation takes a sudden corner, in the way your gaze keeps its gentleness even as your boundaries become visible. The old restlessness that used to rattle through your bones has lost jurisdiction. Where you once braced, you now belong. Where you once performed, you now preside, softly, surely, like a lamp that has decided to be faithful instead of famous. Chosen one, it is not that storms have stopped arriving, it is that you learn the craft of response. You meet heat with temperature, not theater. When conflict knocks, you do not borrow thunder to sound strong, you lend oxygen so truth can burn clean. When anxiety tries to auction your attention, you pay with breath instead of panic. When urgency slaps a deadline on dignity, you choose dignity and let urgency learn the clock is not its crown. This is the anatomy of a flame that does not flinch. It knows the difference between signal and spectacle, between what must be held and what must be released. Your sexual energy, once eager to prove it was alive, now proves it by keeping others alive in its presence, warming, not scorching, clarifying, not clouding, inviting, not invading. Chosen one, look at the small places where your courage shows itself without audience. Watch your hand set a glass down with care when no one would have blamed you for clatter. Watch your feet slow at thresholds so that beginnings do not arrive bruised. Watch your voice return to human temperature when irritation wants to recruit it. These are not accidents. They are the fruit of a man who practiced reverence until it became reflex. You have trained your instincts to keep faith with the moment rather than with your mood. That training is why your light stays steady when wind thinks it can bluff you. Wind cannot bluff a flame that has made peace with its own purpose. Chosen one, your stillness is not a refusal to act. It is the discipline to act without spending your soul. You intervene when harm asks for a wall, but your stop does not humiliate. It protects. You exit when respect is no longer possible, but you close the door so the room retains its dignity. You correct without turning correction into a stage for pride. You are not interested in victory that leaves ashes where people should be. This is what makes your presence trustworthy. Your power does not feed on mess. It organizes the moment so love can work. The body reads this before the mind catches up. Shoulders settle, heart rate soften. Humor returns without teeth. Even silence stops being the enemy. You did not conquer the room, you calmed it. Chosen one, the flame that does not flinch is also fluent in repair. You do not outsource apology to tomorrow where it grows expensive. You pay today while it is still cheap. You do not dramatize remorse to purchase absolution. You fix what you can reach and accept what you cannot command. Because you repair quickly, trust does not have to live on interest. It can spend its time growing instead of guarding. The feminine notices this economy. She recognizes that you are not building a throne from attention, you are building a table from accountability. At tables like these, beauty eats well and fear loses weight. Chosen one, strength is gentleness that has been tested. Your gentleness has been tested and found dependable. You can hear anger without becoming an echo. You can stand before grief without producing a speech. You can allow joy without confiscating it for content. The man who can do these things is rare, and rarity glows whether it asks to or not. Your sexual energy has become a covenant with your values. It arrives where consent lives. It waits where truth needs time. It leaves a moment clean when the moment has offered all it can give. This is why the room tilts towards you without knowing it is moving. Safety is the most attractive climate there is, and safety must be kept by someone who will not flinch when keeping it stops being glamorous. Chosen one, hold to the simple rituals that keep your lamp trimmed. Drink the water before the story. Stretch the stiffness before the sentence. Step outside when your edges begin to spark and return only when your heat can be helpful. Keep your yes warm and your no clean, so neither must be loud to be believed. End the evening while kindness still has the floor. Start the morning while gratitude still remembers your name. None of this will trend, and all of it will last. A flame that does not flinch is just faithfulness with light in it. Keep being faithful. The wind will keep learning. Chosen one, your warmth has softened without thinning, and your center has hardened without closing. This is the paradox you wear so easily now. Tenderness with tensile strength, openness with architecture, invitation with edges. You walk into a room and bodies register two truths at once. Here is a place to rest, and here is a spine to lean against. That double perception is not an accident. You forged it in hours that did not applaud you, shaping your inner metal while keeping the surface hospitable. Your sexual energy, once a flare looking for somewhere to land, has become a hearth that knows its own brickwork. It radiates in every direction, and yet it holds its shape. Those who step near are warmed. Those who would try to take the fire in their hands quickly learn there are lines drawn by love. Chosen one, soft heat begins with how you treat yourself when no one is measuring you. You have stopped managing your heart like a project and started hosting it like a guest worth cleaning the house for. Rest is no longer an alibi you mutter, it is a rhythm you keep. Food is not a bribe or a punishment, it is a conversation with a body you plan to respect in the afternoon. Movement is not penance, it is gratitude for the instrument that carries your kindness. From these quiet covenants comes a temperature that other people's nerves can trust. They are not asked to perform to earn your ease. They step inside the climate you carry and find it consistent, like good weather in a town that used to be all storms.